Hi, everybody. I am John Armstrong, and I help the Ontario Kinesiology Association with their stakeholder and government relations. And we are here for another edition of Kinversations. And my guest today is longtime OKA board member Greg Gillam. Hi, Greg. How are you?
Good, buddy. How are you?
Good. So we're here today because we want to talk about the breadth of things that kinesiologists can do in accordance with their scope of practice. You are a very long time member, not just of OKA, but also of the profession. And you have been in a lot of different roles and worked in a lot of different capacities as a kinesiologist. So I just thought that we'd have a bit of a conversation about those various roles and capacities, what you like about the different jobs and what you didn't like about those different jobs. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Why don't we start, rather than starting at the beginning and working your way up to the present? I know we'll get bogged down in the past because I know you a little bit, Greg. So
Yep.
so why don't we talk? Why don't we start with talking about what you're doing now, and then we'll work our way back.
Okay. Currently, I am a shop kinesiologist at Toyota in Woodstock, working in the health center at Toyota Woodstock. And the role of shop kinesiologist is 13 years old, but I'd never heard of it until a year ago. And it's a very, very, very interesting role. It's probably the most complicated role that I've seen for kinesiology, probably yet in the province, where the kinesiologist is almost the first point of contact in the health center between 3,000 employees and the health center.
How big is the health center?
Health center is probably this maybe 3,000, 4,000 square feet.
How many people work there?
Well, we got an occupational therapist, 2 physios, 2 kinesiologists working in the gym setting, 2 nurses dedicated to short-term and long-term disability, 2 nurses dedicated to clinical for injuries that come in the door, 2 staff members for administration, and some people working with WSIB claims.
What do you do in a day?
Sorry?
What do you do in a day?
What do I do in a day? It's a very administratively heavy position because of the amount of charting we have to do with a system called Cority, which Toyota uses. A lot of typing, I hate to say it. But when we're not typing and sending out emails and writing WSIB forms, then we go out to the different shops. My shops at Toyota are paint, plastics, materials, quality control, rail yard, and sales. So I have 6 shops for 2 shifts. I am a split shift. I have part of the A shift and part of the B shift. And so I would go out to the floors, all geared up in whatever PPE I need for the day. And I would go to see workers who are injured or are on the verge of becoming injured, and see what they're doing, what they're doing in their job that's causing them to have an overuse injury, mostly repetitive strain injuries, mostly upper extremity repetitive strain injuries. And I would look at their job and break down their job by the processes they do and decide this process is causing too much overhand lifting, or this process is causing too much overhead reaching with push, or too much fine finger manipulation, squeezing and pinching. And a certain job within a worker's rotation of jobs is something that's causing them overuse repetitive strain injury. So we will take, and the therapy, this is interesting, the therapeutic modality for what we would do for the workers is not exercise, stretching, TheraBand, ice, heat, although we use those as well. The therapeutic modality for us is taking away for a period of time, the process in their rotation of jobs that's causing them so much injury. So we just take away this part of the job, that part of the job for, let's say, 1, 2, 3 weeks, plug them into therapy in the health center, help them get their injury under control before it becomes really bad, and then plug them back into that job a little further down the road. So it's probably 20% ergonomics, 50% case management, and the rest is accommodation of work and patient, well, what would you say? Trying to talk people into doing things.
Yeah. So how much of that is so it's kind of it's really an early intervention strategy?
Early, yeah, very early intervention.
How many people do you see? Would you say that you see a day?
Well, I'm responsible for not quite half of the plant, so I'm going to say out of 3,000 people, I'm probably responsible for maybe 12 or 1,300. Many of them won't tell you they're injured, even if they're really injured, and others will tell you they're really injured, even if they're not. So, on an average day, I might see 15 or 20 people if I'm lucky.
That's a lot.
Out of, let's say, 1,200 that came to work that day. And each day it might be a different combination of workers, all ages, male and female, all sizes, and all different shops.
What's the best part of that job?
Sorry?
What's the best part of that job?
The best part of the job is seeing what people do for a living and looking at how we can get them to build a car, doing their part of the job, the spray booth, watching guys and women working in the spray booth, spraying the cars. And they use what we call dance steps to spray the car, but keep up with the car as it's moving down the line, and do a perfect job of spraying the car with the most economical movement patterns without over twisting or overturning or overreaching, so that they don't wear themselves out. It's the ultimate example of work smarter, not harder.
Right.
Because every 52 seconds, every 54 seconds, another car comes down the path, and you have to do your job all over again. And if you're doing something wrong by 1%, and you do it every 52 seconds, eventually that 1% really wears you out. And you have to change how you move. Are you moving too much? Are you moving too far? Are you standing funny? Are you holding your body in the wrong posture or mechanics? Because every 52 seconds, there's another car. And over the course of a 10-hour day, that can really wear you out.
What's the biggest challenge to your job?
Oh, biggest challenge is just all the typing. Dreadful amounts of typing for this software program we use.
Are you like 2 fingers, or are you like 4 fingers?
I can do 1 there and 2 of those 3. I've graduated to 3. I'm pretty proud of myself. I can't use my thumbs, but I can make that one go sometimes. Yeah, 3.5, 3 1/3.
So what did you do? What did you do before working at Toyota?
Before I worked at Toyota, I worked for myself. I've had my own business since '96, and I did probably 15 or 20 different things. Private ergonomics, doing ergonomic assessments, physical demands analysis, return to work programs for injured workers, working with, let's say, heavy construction companies, something like that. I also worked with one of my friends' companies. She's a kinesiologist and a past president. And I worked with her in her health and safety company, doing safety inspections, doing PDAs again, injured worker return to work programs, case management with the WSIB. Oh Lord, we did all kinds of stuff.
What's the life of a sole practitioner like?
The life of a sole practitioner? Oh, it's really simple. You eat what you kill. You better know how to hunt. And you better know what forest the deer are in. You can have a great year, you can have a bad year. You get all the risk and you get all the reward. So you better know how to hunt.
Right. How much of your work? How much of your day would you spend hunting?
Oh, if you get better at it and you have a good reputation, then it comes to you. So a young kinesiologist getting started, let's say you've been in a clinic 5 years and you want to go it on your own,
Yeah.
you better have a good reputation and you better have a good skill set because you're trying to promote yourself to your possible referral sources. So if they know you and they believe you do good work, then the work can actually come your way. So the early days, you have to spend a lot of time shaking hands and handing out business cards, handing out resumes, so people know who you are, what you have to offer. But as you get established and you do good work, then often it'll come your way and you don't have to spend as much time searching for work. It kind of depends. Reputation is everything.
Right. So how long were you? How long did you have your own business? What were the years?
Since December 24th, 1996 until today. It's still going.
Oh, it's still going. So
Yep.
how's the sole practitioner world changed in your long tenure?
Oh, it's it's gone around the merry-go-round probably 6 times by now. Auto insurance rehab work used to pay really, really well and was very generous. Now it pays the same, but there's far fewer people that you can see because of changes in the industry. Ergonomics was small, very small, and there wasn't much work out there. Now there's all kinds of work. Whether it's you work for a small company or you work for yourself, that's growing quite a bit. Health and safety was a cottage industry 20 years ago, and now it's really busy. And a lot of kids are just exclusively doing health and safety. There's a lot of opportunity.
Why has ergonomics grown so much?
Oh, I think people realize that they're wearing people out. Ergonomics is to fit the task, fit the job to the person. And people would pay lip service to ergonomics years ago, but they wouldn't take care of the workers. Workers get injured, WSIB gets involved, and the costs the WSIB puts onto the employers is spectacular, absolutely breathtaking, very, very, very high. And the employer says, we're going to go broke if we don't change how we take care of injured workers. We need to make some changes. Okay, let's get some ergonomy work going on here. Revisit all the workstations and try and change them to make them safer so people don't get injured as often. And that way we can have people work, they're not getting injured, it's a happy workplace, and the WSIB isn't charging us massive premiums for our injured worker status. So some of it's kind of punitive. You could say the WSIB is heavily challenging the employer with their expenses, their penalties, and the employers work backwards, say we need to make things better. We need to change our workstations. So they'll hire a kinesiologist to come and take a look at 25 workstations and say, what changes do we need to make? And you find out all the chairs were the wrong kind of chairs, and there's no adjustment in their workplace, and everyone got the same keyboard regardless what size and shape they are, and people can't work in that scenario, and they get worn out, and people get repetitive strain injuries, and then they can't work. So the kinesiologist goes in and makes positive changes to the workstation. Now the person can work, they're not injured, they're happy, the employer's happy, and the WSIB costs are brought down to maybe nothing.
Now, is that the same as the health and safety work that you were talking about, or is that something different?
Health and safety is a different kind of potato where usually you're involved directly with the employer. The employers will hire kinesiologists to go and, let's say, do directly on-site safety inspections. You go to a grocery store where it's being built, new Loblaws, and there's 100 people on site working, and there's 25 large pieces of equipment, and they're trying to block it off to the public, but they're trying to keep the dump trucks coming in and out constantly. And they're looking at, do you have your electrical equipment in good condition? Do you have a first aid kit? Do you have fire extinguishers in place? Are the fire extinguishers charged? Are the workers wearing their personal protective equipment? Stuff like that. So there's a wide variety of things that we used to do in health and safety, and it's actually very interesting work.
But
And
it's not quite applying. It's not quite applying the scope of practice of a kinesiologist.
not as much, but for small health and safety companies, the same employer who had you come out to look at their workstation, or sorry, come into the work site to do a safety inspection, to make sure that workers aren't injured, might also say, you know what, we need to get some PDAs done on the jobs that exist. Can you do that for us? We got a couple people that were injured last year and they're not back to work yet. WSIB is charging us through the nose for our WSIB CAD rating or near rating penalties. Can you help us get them back to work? So one task can turn into others.
Right.
It really depends on what kind of health and safety company you're involved with, but a lot of return work planning. So there's some not direct patient care as much, but a lot of indirect, you could say indirect patient care through helping people get back to work.
So that's really a little bit of the kind of the entrepreneurial necessity of the role, where you have the opportunity to do different things for people with whom you have built relationships.
Yeah, very entrepreneurial. And that's really where the kinesiology profession started. It was just a bunch of people who thought, I got a great education, what can I do with this? And people, the woman I worked with, a good friend of mine who was, she started out in health and safety from the beginning. And she thought, you know what, I can make something of this. And at one point she had 9 other kinesiologists working for her. We were doing stuff all over the province. It was great. So it's very, very entrepreneurial. That's for sure.
Right. So you said you had your own business since what year did you say? 1995? That's a long time.
Christmas '96.
Christmas of '96. What were you in the business before that?
I worked for about 10 years in hospital physio settings and private physiotherapy clinics. I was just doing treatment directly. That was great. That was a simpler scope of practice as far as your direct on-site patient care. Very much exercise and movement specific. Pool therapy programs for badly injured car accident patients. Gym programs for functional restoration, for work hardening, for work conditioning, whether it be at the local fitness center, or if the clinic had a big enough gym, the kinesiologist would work in the clinic on site. So very much almost exclusively patient care. And then of course you have charting to do. So there's 80% patient care, 15% indirect patient care, and then 5% non-patient care, doing charting and stuff like that. Did that for 10 years.
Yeah. So how's the role of the kinesiologist changed over time in your experience? Not just the job, but like how's the role changed?
Well,
if it's changed.
In some cases, it hasn't. There was far fewer kins in the world when I started, of course. So we had to kind of create something out of nothing. And, you took your resume with you and you took your course calendar from the university and explained to people what kinesiology was and had to pronounce it for them. And then you had to spell it. And you just started on very small scope of practice, or a skill set, I guess you'd say. And you just kind of developed the profession as the employer said, gee, I understand that. That looks like something we can make use of. The profession has grown, and just kind of like nursing, it has morphed into a huge, wide cross-section of healthcare fields. A nurse works from community to mental health to ICU to blood donor clinics. The nursing is very, very wide. Well, kinesiology is becoming like that. A lot of different settings.
Right.
So it's growing tremendously. There's more opportunity, but it's spread out. A lot of people still are very entrepreneurial, creating their own industry, their own business, their own opportunities. And then it kind of varies depending on what government's doing with auto insurance, what government's doing with, the insurance company is doing with short-term, long-term disability healthcare. It kind of has morphed and changed over the years with what's been going on in healthcare in Ontario.
Right. So if you were going to give some advice to somebody who's a recent grad, sort of getting their feet wet into the profession, and or B, somebody who's looking to change their role but maintain being a kinesiologist, what advice would you give?
Well, for someone new, I would say that, you want to once you graduate, you really go to school. So, the good news is we have a lot of different areas of specialty that kinesiology has. And you have to decide which one of those you want to specialize in, just like a nurse. The nurse in intensive care does not want to work in mental health and vice versa. It takes a little time to figure out which of those different settings you want to work in. Process of elimination to some extent. For those kins that can work as a volunteer in a hospital, let's say, you think to yourself, cardiac rehab, that's where I want to spend my life. So you volunteer at the Cardiac Rehab Institute at Victoria Hospital in London, let's say, and you twice a week you go in there for 2 hours and you volunteer and help. And you get to see what the job's really like. You think, oh, this is amazing. This is me. I want to do this. Or you find out, no, I don't like this at all. I'd rather do something with work. So then you volunteer in some other setting and you find out, yeah, that's me. I like the idea of being with the worker in the workplace. So, process of elimination takes a little time because we have so many different settings we work in. It takes a little time to figure out what you want to specialize in. Once you do, then you start taking all the continuing education courses that are necessary. Physio, OT, speech, they all do the same thing. Once you know what you want to specialize in, then you start taking your courses. Start taking a lot of continuing education courses to develop your special skills for that realm of the school practice you want to work in. And then you just build your build your skill set year after year with good work, taking courses, just let your skill set develop. But I know a number of people, the most entrepreneurial and successful kins in our profession have been women. I know them all by name, all between 45 and 60 years of age, created their own profession, created their own job, created their own opportunities, and they've retooled themselves 2 and 3 times over. Someone who's health and safety has decided to go into someone that was in ergonomics has gone into case management, long-term, short-term disability. So it's not hard to retool yourself. You have to kind of decide where you want to go. Maybe you're sick and tired of ergonomics and you want to go into more of a desk job. Now you're looking at case management, or you could work for a company that manages WSIB claims. A lot of people start in the clinics and will grow from there. So it's a question of, deciding what next you might want to do, and then look at what courses you need to specialize in that setting and get involved in that setting, get to know people in that setting. Some kins will work in ergonomics their whole life and they love it. Some will retool themselves 5 and 6 and 7 times. And I've done that. And some of my colleagues have done that. You start in the hospital, in the rehab department in the hospital, and you're sick of that, you go into private disability management. There's disability management companies that hire kins to do physical demands analysis or case management or ergonomics or functional restoration. There's quite a number of opportunities. The good news is, there's a lot of opportunity, and the bad news is there's a lot of opportunity, and you have to decide which one you want to be in. Yeah. Same with nursing. Kinesiology is almost like the second coming of nursing in healthcare. The same number of wide variety of settings to work in, and you have to decide. The intensive care nurse does not want to work in mental health, and neither of them want to work in community, and neither of them want to work in emergency department. But it's all nursing. It's all important, and takes time to decide what are those many settings you'd like to be in.
That's great, Greg. that's all the time that we have. I would like to thank our guest, Greg Gillam, longtime kinesiologist, longtime board member of the Ontario Kinesiology Association. I'm John Armstrong, and this is Kinversations. Thanks very much, everybody.